Well, I'm gonna give you homework too. His phone number right here, or this link here to look up. Why I put that on there, I would like for everybody to get yourself a copy of this. FWC will give you a copy, but they won't give me 40 copies or 27 copies, whatever, you know. They like to dole them out individually. And the reason I think this is a fantastic thing for everybody in this room to have, when we were talking about the blue crab today, or not blue crab, the oysters, what you can harvest and when, information's in here. There's a beautiful picture of every fish that's good. You can find your saltwater fish, the crustaceans, everything. And this book is just like a font of information, and it's free. And you just have to call this number and say, I want fishing lines, and they'll send it to you. Or you can go to this and then click on saltwater fishing and saltwater publications, and then click on fishing lines, and they'll send it to you in the mail. They'll send you some nice posters and stuff too. Great information. Another item I would love to have you all get before our next class, and again, I might try to do it, go to Walmart and just take 30 copies, but they only get one case a year, and that case holds 50, they tell me. And once they're out, they're out. The fishing regulation booklet. If you get this fishing regulation booklet, just go anywhere they sell licenses and get it. And this too is gonna have a lot of great information for you on various topics that we would be talking about during our thing. Phyllis has given me the thing. I've got 20 minutes. I'll rip through everything real quick. And if I have time at the end, I got a couple books I wanted to talk to you about. So here we go. Blue crabs. Probably everybody here has had blue crabs or seen it on a menu. Especially around here, you get crab dip, and you can get crabs, you know, in a number of different ways. It's a very important species to Charlotte Harbor for that reason, and it flourishes in the inshore estuarian ecosystem. Interesting thing about them is you can find them in saltwater, pure salt. You can find them out in the Gulf. You'll see those crab pots floating around offshore. You can find them in brackish all over the harbor. And I kayak sometimes 8 miles up the Peace, and you'll find them all the way up the Peace River, 8 miles up. They're still there. So they can survive in pure fresh, pure salt, or brackish. And there is a recreational and a commercial harvest. I'm not gonna talk about the commercial because I get myself too worked up when I start talking about commercial fisheries versus recreational fisheries, so I'm gonna skip that. Blue crab limits for any of us that wanna go out and get some blue crab. That's a 5-gallon pail full of blue crabs. You're allowed 10 gallons of whole crabs per day. No size limit. Now there is a limit there is a regulation saying, please don't take females. It doesn't say you can't take them. It says, please don't take them. And there are some size limits where you can measure for measuring them for some of them. Recreational harvest requires, FWC is real big on free online licensing kind of things for anything you want to think about for fishing. This is one of them. You go and you take this little registration, they give you a registration number, and they tell you what they want you to do, and that includes writing in, you got to put an R on your buoy that's floating so they know it's a recreational trap versus a commercial trap. And in another slide, you'll see some of the other things that they ask you to do. You can tell a male and female apart pretty easily because of their, on the underside, what was like a pseudo abdomen. The female's plate is much larger and kind of triangular shape, and that's where her egg mass will come out. And regardless of whether or not morally you cannot harvest egg-carrying females. If you don't see eggs, you could keep her, but we ask you not to because males will breed with multiple females, but obviously the female's only going to bred once, so you don't want to yank her on out of there. Here's the recreational crab trap, and obviously you don't need to memorize all these different parts of it, but every year they tweak it a little bit, where they change the diameter or the openings because they're trying to keep bycatch out, and other various reasons why they do what they do. You can see there's that buoy that tells you how big it can be, and it's got to be marked with the R. It is a felony to mess with someone's trap. Many of you ever saw on Seinfeld where Kramer finds a lobster trap and pulls all the lobsters in. That's a felony. It's a felony to mess with these two. The name has to be on the trap, so it's identified whose trap it is. Once a year, they do have a day where they harvest derelict traps. There's a female with the eggs. Hard pressed to miss those eggs when you yank that crab out of the water. So you know whether or not you've got a female. And you don't have to have that crab trap to catch blue crabs. I catch a lot of blue crabs while I'm fishing for trout. You can catch them pretty easy. They will bite a lure, and you can bring them in. Usually, as you're lifting them out of the water, sayonara, they let go and they're plopping back down in the water, but you can legally capture them that way. So, moving along to the mollusk, and this is, I get a little more happy when I start talking about the Florida fighting conchs. They're probably the most common and easily recognizable. You walk up and down the beach, and you can find them here on the harbor. I found 2 yesterday right out in front of Sunseekers. But they were being occupied, so they're not here for you to see today. You can see that foot close up when I pulled them up out of the water. They can be very beautiful, and they've got a spinal ridge. The younger they are, the bigger the spines are, and that's a protection device for them. They kind of wear down as the conch gets a little bigger, but they never get really big. A Florida fighting conch shell that's as big as your fist would be a real bragger. One day on Gasparilla, in an hour, I found 150. On Gasparilla Beach, not far from the lighthouse. Every one of them empty.
Oh my God.
Every one of them empty. They're about 3 to 4 inches in size, as you can see, and they've got about a 12-year lifespan, and there they are. They're really quite gorgeous, and when you find them, you can see here there's a little fissure there, and another one here. You can go down and watch the progression as they lay on new layers as they grow. And interesting enough about conch, I don't know how many of you ever hunt for conch or eat conch. I love to do it. And you have to pop a hole in the shell, otherwise you're not going to get that conch out. You punch a hole at the top of the crown, and then you pull the conch out. That conch, the conch that comes out of this shell is going to look just like this. Exact same color. It looks just the same, and they make great chowder. I like to make ceviche out of it, or just slice them right out of the shell and just eat it. It's great. They're herbivores. They feed on algae and detritus. A culinary treat in salads, fritters, ceviche. They're a really good indicator species. They're not a keystone species, but they're an indicator species because they're not going to survive where the water quality is poor. One thing that's really fun about conchs, not so much our fighting conch, but horse conchs and queen conchs, where you find them in the Bahamas, and queen conchs are really protected in Florida. They migrate. I was running a fishing tournament out on Abaco Island, and a little island straight off from us. Once a year, you can go out there in a boat, you can watch them single file. They migrate from where the one island is to the other island. And you look down that water, you see hundreds of conchs in a line as they're moving during breeding season. Very cool. Very cool. Conchs are, and obviously make a nice little musical instrument. With their foot. Just pull themselves along with their foot. Lightning whelk. This is a bragger lightning whelk. I got this one out in Tampa Bay on the Salmon Bridge, snorkeling out there. And this is normally what you're going to find, size of a lightning whelk. And you can always tell it's a lightning whelk because the shell opens on the left. And that's different than most that have the shell opens up onto the right. Let's see, it's a world shell up to 8 inches in length. This one's 11. So, this one, he was really overproduced, he's just going way above. The egg case, you find these on the beach and people just have no clue what it is they're finding. This one's a little stiff right now, but when they're wet, you stretch them out, they can be 3 feet long. When we do our seagrass, I think Dave's got some great GoPro video of the little horse conch. They make the same kind of egg cases. And we were watching them breed, and others were laying the eggs right there as we were snorkeling around doing the seagrass. It was very cool. We've got that captured, and maybe someday it'll be on our YouTube. Who knows? This shell, before I move along, these guys, I think our next one tells you what they're going to eat. So there's the normal size would be on the right. That's a very little one in the middle, and then the egg casing. Lightning strikes. They are an apex predator. They're a carnivore. These guys aren't eating detritus. No way, baby. They want fresh food. They hunt down mollusks, mussels, and clams. And you think, well, what the hell? You know, how are they gonna eat them? And what, I have to laugh when it says ambush hunt. You ever seen one of these move along the bottom? Ambush? Okay, they're moving about an inch an hour. They're gonna ambush something. Yeah, they're gonna ambush a clam, which is moving even slower. So they actually use this shell right here. They push themselves up with their foot. They dig this shell in. It's very sharp. Native Americans use these as tools. They dig that in and they pry the shell open with that, and then they reach in and they get their prey out. They yank it out, they yank that clam out. They're very cool. I mean, these things are they're just beautiful and they're wonderful, and they're there for us to see, and you know, please don't overlook them. And don't think they're just something to put on your, you know, pick up on the beach and put in your shelf. Please don't ever take a live one. When you pick up any of these shells, and they live in the intertidal area, so they can survive quite a while on the beach without being in the water. You see a foot in here, any dark color in here, chuck them back in the water so someone else doesn't, maybe with not the morals you have, pick it up and take it home and put it in bleach water and kill that animal. So that goes for the conchs as well. You can always tell. And those little fighting conchs, if you go out to Treasure Island by St. Pete, most of the ones you find there are filled with hermit crabs. The hermit crabs move in real quick. Oh, I think that's it. I made it in my time span.
You're actually
10 minutes.
You're ahead.
I'm ahead.
You have time for questions, Bruce.
So that gives me an opportunity then to just.
I want to thank Manatee Park for some of that stuff that they let us.
Yes, Manatee Park let us use.
The egg cake.
I'm so, you know, God forbid one of these doesn't get lost. They gave us 2 of them before it gets back to Manatee Park. Because I do not have one this pretty. Before I have a last couple things to say about some other publications, any questions on the whelks or conchs or the blue crab?
I just want to say on those like whelk cases, if you cut one of those open inside, there'll be like inside each one of those circlets will be dozens of perfect tiny little whelks. The shell and everything is already formed.
Oh,
they're
that's
just
cool.
miniature,
Wow.
and they come out and they're just like
Wow.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing. It really is an amazing thing.
Very cool.
Any other questions on any of them? If not, besides this little exercise here, I just wanted to, you know, when Jennifer, Dr. Zobelein was here, she gave that great history talk.
See you next week.
These 2 books are written by Lindsay Williams and U.S. Cleveland, Ulysses Cleveland. This little series, this 2-book series, and I know, Cheryl, I've seen it at your house in your bookcase, and I think, Richard, you have it as well. These are fantastic books. It tells you everything about the development of Charlotte Harbor, Charlotte County, why Kings Highway is called Kings Highway. That's because, like you heard from Jennifer about the cattle ranch in Summerlin. Mr. Summerlin was the big cattle baron. They called him the king. He built that road. Kings Highway was built to move his cattle to the right where we do our water sampling there at what's it called? Point Park. So that was where the boats picked them up. So you learn all sorts of neat things from these books. Randy Wayne White, you might know him by all of his mystery books. I love all his mystery books, but this is a nonfiction. He was a fishing guide originally, and he got together with Carlene Brennan, and they put together, this is the history of sport fishing, which started in Charlotte Harbor, Contra and with the birth, the first time somebody caught a tarpon with a rod. They used to just harpoon them, and it takes you through the entire history. And a lot of what she talked about with Edison and Henry Ford being here, why this community is here, wouldn't have happened without the Silver King you see leaping out of the water here. There would be no Port Charlotte without them. This is a great book just to have if you care at all about fishes. Got all the sport fishes, all the bait fishes, everything you could think of. If it lives in the salt water and it lives in the Florida territorial waters, it's in this book, and it's a really easy read. Great source of information. So I would encourage you to, to get some of that information, steep yourself in those facts, because when you are an ambassador, I don't care if you know the phylum, the kingdom, the genus of all these things. But it would be nice if you were able to tell somebody when they say, what is that? You can tell them, oh, well, that's a lightning well. You could tell them a cool fact about it. Or you can tell them, see those fish at the Riviera restaurant that look like logs and make me drool? Those are some world-class snook that live there and get fed, unfortunately, with shrimp tails from all the goofballs that are eating it. But you see those beautiful fish, and you can tell somebody, that's an apex predator. That's probably the biggest predator, and it only lives in the central and south of Florida. You know, they don't live up north in Florida. So if you can get little facts, and you're talking about your presentation you do, something you're passionate about, you pick that one thing and learn about it, and learn just enough to educate somebody else a little bit, pique their interest so they can learn more and you can learn more. I don't expect you to be an expert in any of this. And next week, Phil and I are going to be doing our stuff. We're going to be doing stuff on the mammals. Phil's going to do mammals, and I'm going to do fish and birds. And it's not going to be a mammalogy class. It's not going to be an ecology of fishes class. It's just going to give you the basics so that you can, again, share those basics with others. So that's what we're hoping we're doing with all of our class material, and I hope it's working.
Thank you.
Give him a big hand, folks.